The Great Hall of the Galaxy Council was the largest room had ever seen. It stretched so far that the walls disappeared into shadow. Floating lights hung in the air like tiny suns. Thousands of alien delegates sat in their seats, arranged in a massive circle that rose toward the ceiling like a mountain. Stood alone in the center, he was the human ambassador to the Galaxy Council. He had traveled for 6 months to reach this place. His ship was small, his crew was tired, but they had made it. Humans had finally earned a seat at the table. Or so he thought. The council speaker was a tall being with gray skin and 4 arms. His name was, and he had led the council for 200 years. He looked down at like a man might look at an insect. "The humans request full membership," said. His voice echoed through the hall. "They wish to be recognized as equals." Laughter filled the room. It came from every direction. Some aliens made clicking sounds, others whistled. A few stomped their feet, but the meaning was the same. They were laughing at humanity. Kept his face calm. He had practiced this moment many times. He knew what to expect. The reports had warned him. Humans were not respected out here. They were seen as newcomers. Children, weak little creatures from a small blue planet. A delegate from the Empire stood up. He was short and round, with bright orange skin and small black eyes. His name was, and he was known for his sharp tongue. "Full membership," said, "for these parasites." More laughter did not move. "They have been in space for only 300 years, continued. "They still burn dead plants for energy. They fight wars over imaginary lines on their planet. They cannot even agree on what food to eat." The laughter grew louder, felt his hands tighten into fists, but he kept them at his sides. He kept his breathing slow. Another delegate stood. This one was from the collective. She was tall and thin, with silver scales covering her body. Her name was. "I have studied the humans," said. "They are emotional creatures. They cry when they are sad. They shout when they are angry. They are ruled by their feelings, not their minds." "Like animals," someone called out. "Worse than animals," another voice added. "At least animals know their place." Looked around the room. He saw thousands of faces. Some were curious, some were disgusted, most were amused. To them this was entertainment. The little human standing alone, being torn apart by words. Raised one of his 4 hands. The room went quiet. "Ambassador," he said, "do you have anything to say?" Looked up at the council speaker. He thought about all the things he could say. He could defend humanity. He could list their achievements. He could talk about their music, their art, their science. He could explain how they had cured diseases, built cities, and dreamed of the stars. But he knew it would not matter. These beings had made up their minds long ago. They did not want to listen. They wanted to laugh. So said nothing. He simply bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind his grandmother had taught him when he was a child. A bow of respect, a bow of farewell. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. The room was silent now. The aliens watched him go. Some looked confused, others looked annoyed, stood up again. "Running away," he called out, typical human cowardice. Did not stop. He did not look back. He walked through the great doors and disappeared into the corridor beyond. Behind him the laughter started again, but it sounded different now. There was something uncertain in it, something nervous. Walked for a long time. The corridors of the council station were endless. They twisted and turned like the inside of a maze, but knew the way. He had memorized every path. Finally, he reached the docking bay where his ship waited. It was a small vessel, barely large enough for a crew of 12. It looked like a toy next to the massive alien warships parked nearby. His second-in-command was waiting at the entrance. Her name was, and she had served with for 15 years. She was short and strong, with kind eyes and a sharp mind. "How did it go?" she asked. Looked at her. For a moment he said nothing. Then he spoke 3 words. "We are leaving." His eyes widened. Leaving, but the negotiations. There are no negotiations, said. There never were. He walked past her and entered the ship, followed, her footsteps quick and worried. What happened in there? She asked. What did they say? Stopped at the door to the bridge. He turned to face her. They called us parasites, he said. They called us animals. They laughed at everything we have done, everything we have built, everything we are. His face went hard. And what did you say? Nothing, replied. I said nothing. He entered the bridge and sat in the captain's chair. Around him, his crew looked up with questioning eyes. They were all humans, all tired, all far from home. Set a course for Earth, said. The pilot, a young man named Jin, turned in his seat. Sir, are we coming back? Looked out the window at the endless stars. No, he said, we are not coming back. The ship lifted off and flew away from the council station. It grew smaller and smaller until it was just a dot of light. Then it was gone. Back in the Great Hall, the aliens continued their meeting. They voted on trade agreements. They argued about borders. They made jokes about the human who had run away. None of them noticed the small ships leaving other stations. None of them saw the human scientists packing their labs. None of them heard the human doctors saying goodbye to their patients. Humanity was leaving, quietly, without anger, without threats, without saying a word. And by the time the galaxy noticed, it would be too late. The message arrived on every human ship, station, and outpost at the same time. It was simple. It was clear. It came directly from Earth. All personnel are to return home. Leave your posts in good order. Do not argue, do not explain. Simply leave. Commander read the message 3 times. She was sitting in her office on Station 12, a research facility orbiting a gas giant far from Earth. For 5 years, she had worked here alongside alien scientists. They studied stars. They mapped galaxies. They searched for the secrets of the universe. Now she was being told to leave. Her door opened. A young researcher named walked in. He was holding a tablet, his face full of confusion. Commander, he said, did you see the message? I saw it, replied. What does it mean? Are we really leaving? Stood up and looked out her window. The gas giant filled the view, its storms swirling like paint in water. She had watched those storms for years. She knew their patterns better than she knew her own heartbeat. Start packing, she said. We leave in 48 hours. Opened his mouth to argue. Then he closed it. He had served under long enough to know when she was serious. Yes, Commander, he said and left. Spent the next 2 days organizing the withdrawal. There were 100 humans on Station 12. Scientists, engineers, doctors, cooks. Each one had a life here. Each one had friends, projects, routines. None of them complained. They packed their belongings. They backed up their research. They cleaned their rooms and left notes for whoever would take their place. The alien scientists watched with confusion. A tall being named Prex, who had worked with for 3 years, approached her on the final day. I do not understand, Prex said. His voice was soft and worried. Why are you leaving? Did we do something wrong? Looked at him. Prex had been kind to her. He had shared meals with her crew. He had celebrated human holidays with them, even though he did not understand the traditions. You did nothing wrong, said. Then why? Prex asked. Is it because of the council meeting? I heard what happened. I am sorry for the things they said. Shook her head. It is not your fault. Then stay, Prex said. Please, we need you here. Your work is important. For a moment, wanted to agree. She wanted to unpack her bags and return to her lab. She wanted to keep studying the storms, keep searching for answers, keep living the life she loved. But she thought about standing alone in that great hall. She thought about the laughter, the insults, the word parasite. I am sorry, she said. We have to go. Prex reached out and touched her arm. It was a gesture of friendship among his people. Will you come back? He asked. Did not answer. She could not answer. She simply walked away. The human ship left Station 12 an hour later. Prex watched it go from the observation deck. He stood there for a long time, even after the ship had disappeared into the darkness. The same scene played out across the galaxy. On the planet, human farmers packed up their equipment and handed their fields to local workers. They had spent decades teaching them how to grow food in harsh soil. Now they left without a single word of complaint. On the mining colonies of the Outer Rim, human engineers shut down their machines and boarded transport ships. They had built tunnels, bridges, and power stations. They left behind blueprints and instruction manuals, carefully organized and labeled. In the hospitals of the central systems, human doctors finished their final surgeries and said goodbye to their patients. Many of the patients did not understand. They had been treated by humans for years. They trusted human medicine. Now the humans were leaving. One doctor, a woman named, stayed late on her last night. She was making sure all the records were complete. Every treatment, every diagnosis, every recovery plan, all of it documented and stored. An alien nurse found her in the records room. "Doctor," the nurse said, "you should rest. Your ship leaves at dawn." Smiled. It was a tired smile, full of sadness. "I know," she said. "I just want to make sure everything is ready." "Ready for what?" the nurse asked. "For whoever takes my place," said. The nurse was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question everyone was asking. "Why are you leaving?" Closed the file she was working on. She turned to face the nurse. In that moment she looked very old, even though she was not yet 50. "Because we were never welcome here," said. "We gave everything we had, our knowledge, our skills, our time, our lives, and in return we were called parasites." The nurse's eyes went wide. "I never called you that." "I know," said, "but your leaders did, and they spoke for all of you." She picked up her bag and walked toward the door. At the threshold she paused. "Take care of my patients," she said. "They deserve better than they got." Then she was gone. The withdrawal took 1 month. 30 days of ships lifting off, stations going dark, and empty seats appearing in meetings. The humans did not make speeches. They did not demand apologies. They did not threaten or bargain. They simply left. At first, the galaxy barely noticed. Humans were everywhere, yes, but they were quiet. They worked in the background. They did the jobs no one else wanted to do. When they disappeared, it felt like a shadow lifting, something you noticed but did not think about. The council held a meeting to discuss the withdrawal. The delegate who had called humans parasites stood up to speak. "Good riddance," he said. "The humans were always trouble. Now we can focus on real issues." Many delegates agreed. They clapped and cheered. They made jokes about the cowardly humans running home with their tails between their legs. But a few delegates were silent. They had worked with humans. They knew what humans could do. They understood what it meant to lose them. Prex was one of them. He sat in his seat and said nothing, but inside he was afraid. Because he knew something the others did not. He knew that the humans had been holding everything together, and now that they were gone, everything was going to fall apart. The silence of the humans was louder than any scream, and the galaxy was about to learn what that silence meant. The first sign of trouble came from the trade routes. For centuries, the Galaxy Council had controlled the movement of goods between star systems. Ships carried food, medicine, metals, and technology across vast distances. The routes were like rivers of wealth flowing through space. Humans had mapped most of them. It was quiet work, boring work, the kind of work no one else wanted to do. Human navigators spent years charting safe paths through asteroid fields, around black holes, and past dangerous nebulas. They created detailed maps and shared them freely with everyone. Now those navigators were gone, and the maps were going with them. Captain Dex of the merchant fleet discovered this the hard way. His ship was carrying medicine to a colony on the edge of known space. The journey should have taken 2 weeks. Instead, it took 2 months. Without human navigation data, his crew had to find their own path. They flew into an asteroid field and lost an engine. They came too close to a dying star and burned their shields. They ran out of food and had to stop at 3 different stations to resupply. By the time they reached the colony, half the patients were already dead. "Where are the humans?" the colony leader screamed at Captain Dex. "They always brought medicine on time. They never got lost." "The humans are gone," Dex said. "They went back to Earth." "Then call them back," the leader shouted. "We need them." But there was no one to call. The humans had disconnected their communication systems from the galactic network. Earth was silent. The trade problems spread like fire. Ships got lost. Deliveries were late. Prices rose as supplies ran low. Planets that depended on imports began to starve. Then came the power failures. Human engineers had built and maintained power stations across the galaxy. They were experts at keeping old systems running. They could fix anything, no matter how broken or strange. Without them, things began to break. On the planet, the main power grid failed in the middle of winter. 3 million people were left in the cold. Alien engineers tried to fix the problem, but they did not understand human technology. They made mistakes. Small fires became big fires. The death toll rose every day. The government sent desperate messages to Earth. They begged for help. They offered money, land, whatever the humans wanted. Earth did not respond. Similar disasters struck other worlds. Space stations lost life support. Factories shut down. Hospitals went dark. The galaxy had become dependent on human skills without ever realizing it. But the worst was yet to come. The plague appeared on a small moon near the galactic center. It was an old disease, one that had been under control for generations. Human doctors had developed treatments that kept it in check. Those doctors were gone now. The plague spread from the moon to a nearby planet. From there, it jumped to trading ships. Within weeks, it had reached a dozen star systems. Within months, it was everywhere. Doctor had left behind detailed records of her treatments, but the alien doctors could not read them properly. Human medical terms were different from theirs. Human biology was strange. They made guesses. They tried experiments. Many of them failed. On the planet where human farmers had once grown food, the crops were dying. The local workers did not understand the irrigation systems. They did not know how to treat the soil. The fields turned brown and empty. People began to go hungry. Then they began to die. Prex watched all of this from Station 12. He had taken over his old lab. He tried to continue her research, but it was hard. She had written notes in human language. She had used human methods. He understood only half of what she had done. One night he sat alone in the dark, looking at the gas giant outside his window. The storms were changing. They were getting worse. Would have known what it meant. She would have known what to do. But was gone. Prex sent a message to the Galaxy Council. He described what he was seeing. He explained how the station was falling apart without human help. He begged them to do something. The council ignored him. They were too busy dealing with their own problems, trade disputes, food shortages, plague outbreaks. Every day brought new disasters. Every night brought new deaths. The delegate who had laughed at the humans was no longer laughing. His home planet was struggling. Their power systems were failing. Their hospitals were full. His own family was sick with the plague. He stood before the council and demanded answers. "Where are the humans?" he shouted. "Why did they leave? How do we get them back?" The council speaker looked tired. His gray skin had turned pale. His 4 hands hung limp at his sides. "They left because we insulted them," said. "They are not coming back." "Then we make them come back," said. "We force them, we attack their planet, we take what we need." A few delegates nodded, but most stayed silent. They knew the truth. The human military was small, yes, But humans were clever, they were stubborn, they had survived worse than alien invasions. And they had something the galaxy did not have anymore. They had hope. On Earth, life continued as normal. The humans who had returned found jobs, built homes, and raised families. They did not think about the galaxy burning around them. They did not watch the news from distant stars. They had tried to be part of something bigger. They had given their best, and they had been rejected. So they walked away. And the galaxy collapsed behind them. Reports came in every hour, planets falling, stations dying, entire species facing extinction. The council met again and again, but they had no solutions. They had no answers. They had only regret. The humans had been the glue holding everything together, the quiet workers, the problem solvers, the ones who did the hard jobs without asking for thanks. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was learning slowly and painfully what that really meant. It meant the end of everything they knew. Stood at the window of his private chamber looking out at the stars. For 200 years he had led the Galaxy Council. He had made treaties. He had stopped wars. He had built an empire of peace and trade. Now he watched it die. Behind him, a screen showed the latest reports. 17 planets had lost power this week. The plague had spread to 42 systems. Trade had slowed to almost nothing. Famine was everywhere. And it had only been 6 months since the humans left. How did we not see this? Whispered to himself. He thought back to that day in the council hall. He remembered the human ambassador standing alone in the center of the room. He remembered the laughter, the insults, the cruel jokes. He remembered his face, calm, patient, sad. Had known what would happen. He had known, and he had said nothing. He had simply bowed and walked away. Because words would not have mattered. The door to the chamber opened. A young aide hurried in, his face pale with fear. "Council Speaker," he said, "we have received more messages." "From whom?" asked. "From everyone, sir. Every member of the council, they all want the same thing." "Let me guess," said, "they want the humans back." The aide nodded. "Yes, sir, they are desperate." Turned away from the window, he walked slowly to his desk and sat down. His body felt heavy. His heart's beat with exhaustion. "Contact Earth," he said. "Send them a message, tell them." He paused. What could he say? What words could possibly fix what they had broken? "Tell them we are sorry," finally said. "Tell them we need them. Tell them we will give them whatever they want." The aide bowed and left to send the message. Knew what the answer would be. He knew before the message even reached Earth. But he had to try. He owed them that much. Far away, on a small ship traveling through empty space, Captain Wu received the message. He was a military officer who had spent 20 years defending human outposts in alien territory. When the withdrawal order came, he had been one of the last to leave. Now he sat in his cabin reading message after message. They came from everywhere. From planets he had helped protect. From stations he had helped build. From aliens who had once spat at him in the street. They all said the same thing. "Please come back, we need you. We are dying without you." Wu read each message carefully. He recorded them in his personal log. He noted the date, the sender, and the content. Then he archived them without responding. His first officer, a woman named Myra, found him in the cabin an hour later. "Captain," she said, "the crew is asking questions. They want to know if we are going to answer the messages." Wu looked up from his screen. "No," he said. "But sir," Myra said, "people are dying out there. Millions of them, maybe more. We could help." "We did help," Wu said. His voice was quiet but firm. "For 300 years we helped. We built their ships. We healed their sick. We fed their hungry. And in return they called us parasites. They laughed at us. They treated us like dirt beneath their feet." Myra was silent. She knew the captain was right. She had been there when the soldiers pushed her aside in a crowded market. She had heard the children calling human children ugly and stupid. She had felt the cold stares, the whispered insults, the constant reminder that she was less than them. "So we let them die?" she asked. Wu stood up. He walked to the small window of his cabin and looked out at the stars. "We do not let them die," he said. "We simply stop saving them. There is a difference." "Is there?" Myra asked. Wu was quiet for a long moment, then he spoke again. "When I was young, my grandmother told me a story. She said that kindness is like water. You can give it freely and it will help things grow. But if people take your water and pour it on the ground again and again, eventually you have to stop. Not because you are cruel, but because you have nothing left to give." He turned to face Myra. "We gave them everything," he said. "Our knowledge, our labor, our lives, and they poured it on the ground, they wasted it, they laughed at it. Now they are thirsty and they come to us asking for more." "And what do we say?" Myra asked. "We say nothing," Wu replied. "That is the only answer they deserve." Back on the council station, waited for a response from Earth. Days passed, then weeks. The messages kept coming from desperate planets, but nothing came from the humans. The silence was deafening. Called an emergency meeting of the council, every delegate attended. The hall was quiet now. No more laughter, no more jokes, just fear. "We must face the truth," said. His voice echoed through the silent room. "The humans are not coming back. We drove them away and now we are paying the price." Stood up, he looked different now. His orange skin had turned pale, his eyes were hollow. "There must be something we can do," he said. "We can offer them territory, resources, power, whatever they want." "They do not want power," said. "They never did, they only wanted respect, and we refused to give it." The room was silent. Every delegate felt the weight of those words. "I have studied the humans," said a quiet voice. It was Prex. He had traveled from Station 12 to attend the meeting. "They are emotional creatures, yes. They feel things deeply, but they are also proud. When you hurt their pride, they do not forget." "Then we apologize," said. "We beg." "We already have," replied. They did not answer. "So we send more messages," insisted. "We send them every day, every hour, until they respond." Shook his head. "You still do not understand. The humans are not ignoring us because they did not receive our messages. They are ignoring us because they have nothing to say. They made their choice. They walked away. And now they are waiting." "Waiting for what?" asked. Looked at him with tired eyes. "Waiting for us to understand what we lost. Waiting for us to feel what they felt. Waiting for the galaxy to learn the lesson we refused to learn when they stood before us." "And what lesson is that?" asked. Took a deep breath. "That they were never beneath us. They were always beside us. And now that they are gone, we finally see how much we needed them." The council was silent. For the first time in centuries, no one had anything to say. Outside, the stars continued to shine. Ships continued to drift. Planets continued to die. And Earth remained silent. 5 years had passed since humanity from the galaxy. The universe had changed. Many planets had fallen into darkness. Some had recovered slowly, learning to survive without human help. Others had not been so lucky. Entire species had vanished, wiped out by plague, famine, and war. The Galaxy Council still existed, but it was smaller now. Half the seats were empty. Half the delegates were dead. The great hall that once echoed with laughter was quiet and cold. Was gone. He had died 2 years after the withdrawal, his heart broken by guilt and exhaustion. A new speaker had taken his place, but she had little power. The council was a shadow of what it once was. The messages to Earth had never stopped. Every day, ships carried pleas across the vast distance to the human. Some were formal requests from governments. Others were desperate cries from ordinary citizens. All of them asked the same thing. "Please forgive us. Please come back. Please help us." On Earth, Director sat in her office at the Ministry of External Affairs. She was older now, her hair streaked with gray, her face lined with years. But her eyes were still sharp, and her mind was still clear. On her desk sat a stack of reports. They contained summaries of every message received from the galaxy that week. There were thousands of them. Picked up the first report and began to read. A planet called was requesting medical supplies. They had finally beaten the plague, but their hospitals were empty. They had no medicine, no equipment, no doctors. A mining colony in the Outer Rim was requesting engineering support. Their tunnels were collapsing. They did not know how to fix them. A trade federation was requesting navigation data. Their ships kept getting lost. Hundreds had disappeared into the darkness between stars. Read each report carefully. She made notes in the margins. She signed her name at the bottom. Then she filed them in a cabinet-marked archive. Her assistant, a young man named Ho, entered the room with a cup of tea. "More messages today?" he asked. "Always more messages," replied. Ho set the tea on her desk and looked at the stack of reports. "Do you ever think about responding?" he asked. Was quiet for a moment. She lifted the tea and took a slow sip. "I think about it every day," she said. "I think about the patients I left behind. I think about the nurses who cried when I said goodbye. I think about all the lives I could have saved if I had stayed." "Then why do you not respond?" Ho asked. Set down her tea and looked at the young man. He had been born after the withdrawal. He had never seen the stars up close. He had never felt the sting of alien scorn. "Because responding would mean we forgive them," said, "and I am not sure we have forgiven them yet." "Have you?" Ho asked. Thought about the question. She thought about calling her people parasites. She thought about saying humans were ruled by emotion. She thought about all the small cruelties, the daily insults, the 1,000 cuts that had driven humanity away. "I want to forgive them," she said finally, "but wanting is not the same as doing." Ho nodded. He understood, even if he had never experienced it himself. "The new council speaker sent another message this morning," he said. "She is asking for a meeting. She says she will come to Earth herself. She will apologize in person. She will give us whatever we want." Smiled sadly. "They all say that," she replied. "They have been saying it for 5 years." "Maybe this time is different," Ho suggested. Shook her head. "It is never different. They want what we can give them. They want our skills, our knowledge, our labor. They do not want us. They never wanted us. They only want what we can do for them." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over a green valley. Birds flew across the orange sky. Children played in a park below. Earth was beautiful. Earth was home. Earth was enough. "Do you know what I learned out there?" said, still looking at the sunset. "I learned that being needed is not the same as being valued. The galaxy needed us. They needed us desperately, but they never valued us. They took everything we offered and gave nothing in return, not even respect." She turned to face Ho. "Now they understand what they lost. Now they regret what they did. But regret is not change. Saying sorry is not being sorry. Until they truly understand, until they truly change, our answer will be the same." "And what answer is that?" Ho asked. Picked up the stack of reports and placed them gently in the cabinet. "Silence," she said. Across the galaxy, the messages continued to arrive at Earth. Ships landed with delegations. Officials sent pleas and promises. Common people recorded videos begging for help. None of them received a response. In the ruins of Station 12, Prex sat alone in what had once been his laboratory. The power was failing. The lights flickered. The great window that had once shown beautiful storms was cracked and dark. He held a small object in his hands. It was a photograph that had left behind. It showed her standing with her crew, smiling, on the day they arrived at the station. Prex traced the faces with his finger. These were the people who had worked beside him, These were the people who had made his life better. These were the people he had let down. "I am sorry," he whispered to the photograph. "I am so sorry." The words disappeared into the empty room. Somewhere far away, on a blue planet orbiting a yellow sun, finished her work for the day. She closed her office and walked home through quiet streets. She ate dinner with her family. She watched the stars come out. She thought about the galaxy. She thought about all the people calling for help. She thought about the choice humanity had made. It was not an easy choice. It was not a kind choice, but it was the right choice. Humanity had learned its worth. They had learned that they did not need to beg for acceptance. They did not need to prove themselves to anyone. They were valuable just as they were. The galaxy had learned something too. They had learned that respect cannot be demanded. It must be given freely. They had taken humanity for granted, and now they were paying the price. Perhaps someday things would change. Perhaps someday the galaxy would truly understand. Perhaps someday humanity would return. But not today. Today the silence would continue. And in that silence, there was a message louder than any words. We were always enough. We were always worthy, and we do not need you to tell us so. The stars continued to shine. The universe continued to turn. And Earth, small and blue and quiet, remained exactly where it had always been. Home. The end.